This time we're looking now not to the ground forces, but we're looking to the Navy, the Soviet Navy, because we didn't really know a lot about it. There is a Soviet naval officer named Orlov who is there, and he starts telling us what his experience was of being in a Soviet submarine during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And what he says is the following. First of all, imagine, Soviet submarines are built for extremely cold water, and so their insulation is unbelievable. Well, you take these cold weather submarines and you put them in the waters around Cuba, so the temperature inside is enormously high, 120 degrees or more. So imagine you're down in a sardine can, 120 degrees down there, and you can't surface because the U.S. destroyers are all around you. And so what's the deal? Well, first of all, each submarine has 4 torpedoes, but one of them is nuclear. U.S. does not know this, by the way. But the U.S., again, is trying to be restrained in some way, but there are kinds of interactions between the U.S. destroyers and the Soviet submarines. They're throwing down these sonar depth charges, and it sounds like and it feels like maybe you're being under attack right then and there. And you're not exactly calm, cool, and collected because you're dying.
And the question that arises,
and so,
has the war to end all wars
begun?
And you don't know it because you've been underwater. And in those days, there's no communication between the subs and Central Authority in Moscow while they're submerged.
And the protocol says in order to fire this nuclear-tipped torpedo, 3 people have to agree on the ship. One is the captain, the second is the second in command,
The third is the
and
political
the third
officer.
is the political officer. And so the captain agrees and says, yes, we will fire the nuclear torpedo. The second in command says, I agree, let's fire the nuclear torpedo. The political officer says no. So we were 2/3 of the way down the road to firing the nuclear torpedo when the political officer said no.
And Arkhipov was the political officer whose assistant, Mr. Orlov,
Right.
came to Havana and told us this story. Again, none of us in the room knew anything about this. Everybody thought the crisis was dangerous, but nobody dreamed that they should have been thinking about how many depth charges and sonar probes they should have been dropping from these sub-killers onto these Soviet submarines. There was, in effect, nothing to be lost in scaring these guys down there and making sure that their lives were miserable. But there was, because they had nuclear weapons.